Hi, Paul Arnold here, sometimes known as Stuttering Professor, and today I want to talk to you about defining an idea in communications. And this is a video not about how you get to a great idea. Honestly, if you want to get to a great idea, my best advice is you start from having a great insight. And I've posted a video in the past about how do you get great insights. This is very much about that moment when you are reviewing a range of different executions and you're trying to see what is sitting at the very heart of those, because actually when you're coming to actually sell that either to your client or the client to his or her stakeholders, the more you can understand and explain that, the more you make sense of the work in front of you. Now, why is defining the idea important? Because I think at the heart of it, the idea is the key, what I call the worm that goes on inside the brain or inside the heart and basically influences and shapes and changes our view about that brand. So it's really critical. And for the brand itself, it helps to drive engagement and it drives differentiation. And it provides that long-term consistency that people know and understand what that brand's about. And specifically in terms of communications is that central theme to tie all the different media channels together. So what is an idea? You know, before we delve into advertising, I just want to sort of jump into the world of films because, you know, when Mark Kermode or anyone reviews it, they always give a very quick synopsis, that one-liner that sums up what that 90-minute film is all about. And in many ways, that's what we're trying to get to. So in other words, if it's 12 Years a Slave, it might be something like dramatizing the cruelty and injustice of slavery by following the life of one black man who is unfairly taken into slavery. Or if it's 3 Billboards Outside Missouri, it might be how a mother is forced to use unconventional ways to force the police to investigate the unresolved rape and murder of her teenage daughter. And so we're trying to find that one line that somehow links everything together. So for Snickers, it might be demonstrating that Snickers refuels us by dramatizing in a humorous way how people turn into other people when hungry. So let's give a definition. One definition is a creative transformation of the benefit into executional elements. But for me, it's like the soul that sits at the heart of all of these executions. It's almost like the DNA which pervades itself through everything. And basically, if we're trying to judge future work, we've really got to say, have we kept hold of that soul, of that DNA, or have we moved away from that? So it's a very good way of having strategic rigor in the work that we're looking at. And I actually think that creative should be able to look at it. If they've never worked on the campaign before, should be able to look at it and say, I got it. I know what I can do next. And a great example of that is Specsavers. Specsavers, you know, my definition of the idea is that it dramatizes in witty, hyperbolic situations the misfortunate consequences of poor eyesight. And we've seen some fantastic executions of that. And it wouldn't be too difficult to think, how would I do the next one? You have a very clear roadmap for where you go next. And the very interesting Specsavers have also branched out into hearing aids. So likewise, you could see how you'd use that very same idea to develop the next executions. And they've done a really fun one, which is an old lady driving down the road in a car, and the bass sound is booming out and breaking windows and disturbing the neighborhood because she can't hear very well. It's the same idea communicated with a different product. That's the power of a great idea and keeps all the brand together. Now, what do I think an idea should be? You know, an idea should be simple, clear and understandable, because it's got to be something that people can pick up on and do something with. It's therefore got to be directing as well, and it's got to basically inspire and engage. And I say it doesn't need to just only inspire the creatives to, I really work on the next one. It's got to basically inspire the consumers as well outside of them. Therefore, it's got to be distinctive and it's got to be ownable. It's something that no one else is really doing to help separate your brand from everyone else. And likewise, it's got to create cut through. In the noise that's out there, it's got to be something that people listen to, listen out for, and therefore you get your message through. And it's got to be media agnostic, because with the multi-touch points that we're using these days, it's got to be able to communicate there, and there. And if you don't, you've really sort of weakened the power of the brand, because you're not using the full flexibility of all the media choices and touch points that consumers are also interrelating with that brand with. And it's got to be memorable, because, you know, to talk about all the work that's been done by Byron Sharp, all this idea about developing these sort of memorable brand assets over time, of which the idea can become one of them. You just think about MasterCard. You know, the price list has moved from a communications up to a brand defining level. So it's really powerful. Okay, now I want to talk about defining what that idea is. And some of the key elements in actually thinking about how you define it are focusing on the action and the tonality. So the very first thing, what is the dramatic action of the idea? Of which it could be like by dramatizing, by educating, etc., etc., etc. And the other one is about the tonality, is the how you do it. Are you doing it through humor? Are you doing it through challenge? Are you doing it through hyperbole? Are you doing it through facts? How are you doing that? How are you communicating the action? Okay. I'll give you a nice example about Red Bull, which are far away from doing classic TV advertising. And my example, and again, bear in mind, I'm writing this myself, so I don't have access to actually their stuff. So anyone at Red Bull, you may say, no, that's not what it is, in which case, please come back to me. But I define it as developing shareable content through sponsoring extreme sports and adrenaline junkie stunts. So that's why they go and do all their crazy fun things, which basically their action is really to get people to go and sort of follow them and to share their content. Lynx is another example. You know, they're about dramatizing in humorous, hyperbolic scenarios how Lynx makes a man irresistible. Now, what I think is very interesting about this one is, with the changing culture we're in, they're having to reshape that in one that it feels to be more appropriate for the way we are in our current society. Let's move on about, you know, a few other tips about how to define it. You know, so you're looking at this work, and I always think, you know, the more work you can look at, the more you can start to see what is the commonality, that thread that lies between them all. And particularly if there are other media examples as well, you can therefore see that stuff. Sometimes it doesn't always happen. Clearly, speaking with the creators as well is obviously a critical stage at this point. And then write the execution down line by line, because I find that writing it down line by line really helps you to get to really focus on the inside of the idea. And then I think you've got to look at, where is the action, where's the energy, where's the tension that is sitting inside that execution. And you know what, with all things, you know, all us planners do, we always worry away at the problem. That's what you've got to do. Keep asking yourself, like, how does this idea work? You know, what is this execution all about? You know, what's the key concept? What's that high level thought this execution is trying to land with our consumers? And the more you spend time on this, the more clear you're going to get about that stuff. You know? And when you write it, keep it simple. Just use normal human words and avoid the temptation to almost like legalize it or marketize it, you know, where we put all the other bits in to make it fit everything. No, you know, that just clouds it. Because don't forget, its fundamental role is as a tool to help deliver new work and make people understand it. And how do you judge it? Well, I think you judge it using the same criteria used when you're judging the execution itself. You know, is it distinctive? You know, is it relevant, etc., etc. But the two big ones I think about is that, you know, could you write the next execution from? Could you write the next execution? Do you know what it's saying? And the next one is, could you see it stretch over time? Could you see it stretch over different medias? Could you see it stretch over different geographies? And if you found you got those, you know what? You're onto a winner. Anyway, I do workshops in this field, so if that is of any use, then please contact me using the details at the end of this video. Anyway, happy hunting. Ciao. Bye.